everybody, welcome back live at Drew's House, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Hope everybody is doing all right out there as we move into May. This is what time's getting ahead of me here. It happens every year. I think that's just a case of getting older, maybe. But hopefully everybody is doing okay out there. Spring, summer, right around the corner, and Kyle Hodsdon in the house, our favorite athletic director in the area. I probably shouldn't say that. I have enough of you guys on actually. But Kyle, good to have you back on the show. How are you, man?
Always great to be here. Thanks, Drew.
Apologies to Dan Thornton. He's just been on more than you. You know, this is how I get people in. I guilt them. But how's the spring going so far?
Well, we're just past the halfway point, and
is it already the half? Man,
we're right on track of replicating what we did last year,
which was successful.
It was a great spring,
Yeah.
And all of our teams are highly competitive. Most are hovering around first place in the league, and the power rankings coming out. We do very well in that aspect of it, and looking forward to the playoffs in just a few weeks away. So, we're hoping that we have a late spring like we did last year.
Yeah, what was it? The baseball team took you guys all the way into how long was that? That ends up taking you into well into the summer.
Well, no, it seemed
well,
like it,
spring,
but with each win like that, it's fun to look forward to 3 or 4 more days of a chance to advance. But to have teams like we did last year go all the way to that final game, and then that was it. Like the season ended that day. There were only 2 teams out of 71 that were still playing. In our division. So, we're looking forward to it. But that was last year. We've moved on. We have new kids. Same coaches across the board. But
really, no replacements?
No, we've got the same staff this year, and which is pretty typical. But new kids wanting to make their own mark, and they're doing a great job.
It's kind of good when you have it's just easier to build when you have like those cultures, though, right? That like you have a team that goes to a title game like that and plays. They must have been playing. I joked about deep into the summer, but it was their summer, right? Those kids are out of school and still committed. A lot of those seniors that.
Seniors. Seniors graduate. June 2nd.
Sometimes as well as I do, the focus can go away sometimes.
Yeah, and we have senior week, which is the last week of May, so they're pretty much done in a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
So they've got their day to themselves, and they come in and play in the afternoon. And that was very unique last year with our teams that kept advancing as they were focused.
Yeah.
And baseball especially, like they just it was a fun group, and they liked being around each other, and they didn't want it to end.
Yeah.
The other teams obviously worked hard to advance, to keep going and win this girls tennis championship and win the boys track championship, and and girls lacrosse kept advancing. And so it's it's a lot of dedication, but it's tough in the spring when the weather starts getting warmer, and there's some distractions.
You need good leaders.
Yeah, and that's been the key. That was the key last year. Same this year. Our captains and our coaches, especially our captains. We've got another good group, and we're gonna ride that this spring. And you don't take it for granted, because you just don't know if it's going to continue. That's our expectation. That's the culture, like you mentioned. But it's we've got to work hard. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And our kids buy in, and it's been working.
Yeah, and I know I had the girls tennis where I think that was we had them in here last year at some point. I remember. And very, very sweet. I know you have all sorts of. There's a lot that goes on with tennis when it comes to courts and numbers and all that. What's the latest on the? I guess would it be scheduling issues? Are you guys doing okay over there? I know.
Well, tennis is. We struggle with. We have a beautiful facility here in town at Atkinson. We have 2 wonderful courts at Knock right now. The problem, and that's 5 courts. It would be wonderful if we had 5 courts in one location. Yeah. Because it's 5 rounds each match. Yep. Unfortunately, at Atkinson we have 3.
It's 3 singles and 2 doubles, right?
Correct. Yeah. And so it's 2 sets. So it takes a long time. Yeah. So we can't play JVs after a varsity match. It's just not enough daylight to do that. And then part of the issue we ran into early in the season this year was the cracks at Atkinson expanded over the winter.
Which is a New England thing. It happens.
It happens, right. And then we were prepared, the Parks Department was prepared to fix them, but we needed 24 hours of 50-plus degree temperature. And we've had that during the day, but at night when it gets into the 40s and 30s, that slows the curing process. So it just prolonged it. So it's in tennis, we're already playing 3 matches a week, and then you throw in a rain date, and now all of a sudden it's 4. There's just no place to put matches. Yeah. So but those are small problems. I mean, our boys and girls teams have been flexible. We actually played a boys match at Knock with 2 courts, which ended up being postponed, not postponed, but like delayed in the last doubles match because of daylight, like 4.5 hours
Couldn't
later.
quite get it in.
We tried to, so that, we didn't have to make up, the trip or whatever, and it just didn't work. So we're hoping that all is good now, and our teams can finish strong. Both our tennis numbers are up. Our girls' numbers have been strong for a few years now. Credit to Jesse Craddock and Carly Farah, coaches, and Jana Schulzen, our current coach.
What are the numbers? Do you know?
We're in the 40s. Wow. And our boys team, which we didn't have a team.
When we started doing the show, there was no boys team.
And then we co-op to Triton, just to get a couple kids playing. And now all of a sudden we're in the 20s and 30s. Wow. The last couple of years. So
that is great.
That's taken off. So that's 50 to 60 to 70 players competing for 3 courts or 2 courts. It's really not great. Which we played at Ipswich. They have 6 courts. North Reading has 5 courts. So those are luxuries those communities have. We're really lucky in so many other areas. It's just tennis. If we had 1 more court at Atkinson, or if we had 2 more courts at Knock, that would solve a lot of problems for our tennis community.
I'm sure there's all sorts of negotiations going on. It's funny. I mean, I remember those. People joke sometimes about the tennis coach. How much can you teach the tennis player who's out there playing their own game? It's a very individual sport, but I give a lot of credit to tennis coaches when you have those kind of numbers, because if you don't have, 1, the ability to make it fun to show up there and not always be center of attention, but 2, also there's going to be a well-run practice to keep everybody going and feel like you are a part of the team. To be able to keep those numbers up in a sport like tennis is not the easiest thing. So
sure.
Got to give coaches a lot of credit, I would think.
Yeah, it's basically 7 people that play, right? Yeah. The 3 singles and the 4 doubles, and some try to creep into that, but it doesn't happen too often. So, to have the others continue to play and have the numbers year after year, that says something about our coaching, having fun, this is a lifelong sport. So it's working. Whatever they're doing, it's working.
I promise I won't dominate the whole thing with tennis, but you did say lifelong sport. I swear, I tell people that all the time. It's like my grandmother played till she was in her mid-80s. Like it's not necessarily about the tennis all the time. It's a social thing too at that age, but she loved it, and we saw the decline afterwards when she stopped playing, and it is a great sport in so many ways. And it just it wasn't necessarily cool when I was growing up. I remember it was like you do tennis, and I remember telling people it's one of the more physical sports you can play. I don't understand the people think it's like, you hit the ball. No, it's very demanding. I always thought that was interesting that people look down on it. Still in this country, they kind of do. I don't know. It's weird. I wish that sport would blow up a little bit. I'm doing my best. Other headlines, surprises this spring?
I would say softball. Will be a surprise. Early on, they lost 3 tough games to the 3 schools that were undefeated. Okay. Combined 14-0 record. 2 of those games they were leading late in the game. So last year they were a 500 team, lost to Bishop Fenwick in the playoffs. They're better than their record indicates. Very strong pitcher, player of the year in the Cape Ann League last year. So
who's that?
Emily Malidi. Okay. And the rest of the team we brought back talented veterans. So I think it's just a matter of time towards the end of the season I think we're going to be playing our best ball at that time, and or continue to improve like we're doing. And I think we're going to be better than what teams are going to expect at that time.
Gotcha. Are they they're getting pushed by the baseball boys after a year like that? You got to try to keep up with that success. Right?
Yeah, well, you know what? We talked about leadership. The teams support each other.
Yeah.
You know, over spring break a couple weeks ago, we had a baseball playing at an 11 o'clock game on a Wednesday, midweek, and the other teams, lacrosse, were both playing later that day, and softball had an early practice. And for that 11 a.m. game, the lacrosse players were there, the softball team was there.
Oh,
so they
cool.
do support each other. Because when they're not wearing the uniforms, they're classmates.
Yeah.
And when you see them in school, if they're wearing their uniforms in school on a game day, you're seeing lacrosse players sitting with baseball players and softball and tennis. And so I think that's a big part of our success, is because we're one. Yeah. And we're not trying to do things on our own. Yeah. And they buy into each other and support each other, and it's a lot more fun that way. I mean, you guys pack the hockey rinks for hockey games, and that's kind of easy for you guys. I know it's a hockey community, and it's always going to be a big home ice advantage. It's not always the easiest with the spring sports, because it's a different atmosphere. It's outside, the weather's nice, people are doing a lot of different things, schedules are packed, so it is great when you can kind of get that support from within and kind of push each other along. It's almost more important in the spring, I would say. Yeah, the spring is tough because everybody plays at the same time. Mm-hmm. So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all our athletes, 400 plus athletes, are all out playing. Right. At their own venue, on the road or practicing. So
it's tough on an AD too. You don't get to see everything.
That is tough. It's beautiful weather to go around, but I might only be able to see 2 innings of softball and a little bit of tennis, and luckily those are next to each other. But also, we don't have everything on campus either, which makes it a little more difficult to get around. But it's so nice to get around and see our teams and our fans and the support that we get. Yeah. Is that would you say that is one of the tougher things of being an athletic director? Because I know when it comes down to it, you love the competition. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that comes with it, but I know at heart you love the events. Yeah, the 2 o'clock on in the day is my favorite time of the day. Yeah. That's what it's all about. What we do before that, prepares for that time, for the athletes to get ready to play, whether it's scheduling or whatever else happens during that time. Yeah. But when the games start, then we enjoy it, and that is definitely the best. And it is too bad that we can't all be at every entire event, but it's nice to be able to see a little bit of everything. Yeah. I think I've asked you this every show you've been on for the last 6 years. Where are you at in scheduling? It always fascinates me how far ahead you are. Yeah, we just completed winter basketball and hockey. So, we're, at some point we might be overlapping, spring to spring or whatever. But it's important, especially with the power rankings now, that we secure the best possible opponents that might be available. And we're fortunate because our teams do well here and people want to play us. Yeah. So our girls lacrosse and our girls tennis, I just went out and I looked at last year's power rankings, and I looked at all the state champions and the number 1 ranked teams and contacted them. And we're playing teams this year that we've never played. Notre Dame Academy out of Hingham for girls lacrosse, a perennial powerhouse. We beat Portsmouth, New Hampshire, who's won 5 straight state championships in a row in girls lacrosse. And then we followed up by beating Andover, Division I. They were number 1 last year, and we beat them 17-4. So our kids compete, statewide. Doesn't matter which division, and it's not just girls lacrosse or tennis. It's most of our teams do that. How does that work? Do you have to, you say you go through and you talk with the other athletic directors. Are you also consistently talking to your coaches? Is that like a very back and forth process where? Yes, and a lot of times it depends on the coach and the sport. Yep. Like hockey, for example, Coach Amin, he's completely hands-on. Hockey's a different. The coaches, because of the rinks, it's a different animal. So the coaches talk to coaches, match up with each other, and then we try to find a date.
Yep.
Basketball, there are less. There might only be 4 non-leagues, so then we try to determine who are our best opponents. We reach out to them, and then we confirm. So for the most part, the coaches are heavily involved, and when we schedule non-leagues, we talk to the coaches. I talk to the coaches anyway, and just let them know, but most are like, let's get the best that we can play.
Yep.
And regardless of whether we win or lose, let's try to get the best that we can play.
Gotcha. Go back to the winter for a little bit. You talked about how in the spring you have all the returning coaches. You had to do a new basketball regime this year with a new head coach.
Yes.
I know that's a big change at that sport. It's a big sport at Newburyport, of course. They all are, but that's, of course, a big profile one. How'd you feel about that season?
Well, Mark Elmendorf took over for Dave Clay.
Yep.
And Mark was an assistant with Dave for a couple of years. And Mark's an experienced coach, and I think I mentioned on your show before, we coached together a long time, not together, against each other a long time ago when we were young head coaches just starting out. So I have a history with him, way back, and then he's had a lot of success at every stop in New Hampshire. Championship games and Final Fours at every school he's been to, but he's just so impressed with the Newburyport student athlete and how respectful they are and how hard they work, and so they played a very tough schedule, and that was actually a schedule that Dave Clay, when because we're so far in advance, that was created by Dave. And Mark's schedule for next year is similar, basically almost the same teams, but tough non-league opponents, top 10, top 20 in the state, Division I teams. We beat a Division I, team as well, and that was so it was a productive season. Won a playoff game, and then lost to the team that. At Mansfield, who's the best high school team that I've seen in my 8 years here.
Oh wow!
They were that good, and we went down there and lost, and they ended up losing the Final Four of our division. But next year we'll be, because of the alignment with enrollment, we'll be going from Division II down to Division III. Most of our teams are in Division III. That's our opponents.
Yep.
But boys basketball played our league, and then when the playoffs come, we end up playing up into a tier with schools with, 200 to 1,000 more than us, or 500 more than us.
Gotcha.
So it'll be a little more our level tournament system next year.
I liked his, I guess it was probably senior night for you guys. I love these little gestures that when high school coaches get it, starting all the seniors that don't. I thought it's always a cool moment for me when,
And Mark gets it. Karen Grutchfield gets it, our girls coach, and they're Mark's a retired teacher. He's still young. He's retired. Our coaches are teachers, whether in the school as a teacher, but they're teachers on the field or the court or the ice or wherever they are. So we are fortunate. Not all coaches get it. We see coaches who come in and it's like that's not a good representative of their school. But our coaches, varsity, JV, JV2, doesn't matter. We're and I've said that from day one. We are fortunate when we have an opening that we get highly qualified people. So if I had a son or a daughter in our athletic program going to Newburyport High School, they're in good hands. They're in good hands with our teachers, with our education program, and they're in great hands with our coaches. Yeah,
I mean, I think we all, it jumps out at you when there's a program that's here, or maybe you just don't like how somebody carries themselves on the sidelines or whatever. It's just, it does. It's crazy how it jumps out at me so often. I can imagine from your point of view, you must cringe when you see not from your side, but I mean, even, visitors that come in I don't think that would be the right fit, or.
Yeah, and the players feed off that, and typically a team reflects their coach. Yep. And that's you want a good role model.
Yeah, I think players. Yeah, that's why coaches get so upset at players. The good ones get so upset when kids do silly things because you're representative of the whole group, right?
Sure,
It rubs
right.
off badly on
Sure.
everybody. Do you ever miss coaching? I know athletic director is a whole different world, and it's there's some overlap in responsibilities. But do you ever miss just being down there?
Yeah, very much, very much. And it used to be daily when I first ended, and it was I missed it really badly. And now I get my fix with my children.
How old now?
They're 11, 11-year-old twins, boy and a girl, and they. So I don't coach any of their teams, but I do skills nights for each. So I have no say in playing time, plays, any personnel, anything like that.
Yeah.
I just work on fundamentals and drills and skills to make it's their league better.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always enjoyed most about coaching is the teaching part.
Yep.
I guess when I was the head coach, I enjoyed the strategy and all that as well. But I enjoyed seeing people get better. So that's nice. And I have lots of conversations with our coaches, and I'm not active or involved with any of the. I guess I am active. I'm not involved with any of the coaching with them, but it's nice to be involved to see what they're doing and what their approach and game plans are.
I thought you were gonna. You ever see that speech by the UMass basketball coach? Now it was when he was with some other Kansas State, I think, or maybe South Carolina. But what is his name? His name always escapes me. New UMass basketball coach. Big guy.
Frank Martin.
Thank you. You ever seen that speech on referees with him?
Yeah.
It just I remember my aunt telling me they should play that in every high school gym, every gym with their kid, parents, because the gist of it is, the people on a Sunday morning yelling at referees, and if a kid comes to me and is upset about it, I say go touch it, coach. Don't talk to me. Go touch it, coach. And then I see parents yelling at referees, and I'm just like, what are we doing out here?
Our referee issues have
still
gotten
there?
worse.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I mean, that's and our people are pretty good here, but some people are terrible spectators.
Yes.
And that's why I'm like, I had to confront one this winter, an opposing fan, and I'm like, that's not helping. That's not helping the situation, and that's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
They do that to make themselves. That get their frustration out, but we have serious problems. So much so that I think we're going to have a league initiative next year to get our student athletes some type of awareness, and we're going to do that in Newburyport. That you get people who are passionate about a sport, they come back and they're a coach.
Yeah.
But you can only be a coach if you have a certain profession, because being available at 2:00 every day is not. People it's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But to be an official, it's not every day. It's a little bit later. You still might have a passion for something.
Yeah.
Might not be able to coach. So we're going to try some programs to maybe teach our student athletes or encourage them to come back.
Yeah.
And like girls, I will use girls lacrosse, for example. We have games on our schedule. We were notified if you have 0 officials, we have an assigner, somebody who assigns for the state basically, and we were told if we have 0 assignments, that don't expect anybody. Like there's no more people.
Yeah.
So we need to move dates, and there are only so many dates, and then it has to work for both schools, and then it's a trickle effect. So we're in rough shape, and some sports are worse than others.
What are the worst?
Girls lacrosse, field hockey, volleyball. We're actually starting to see it in basketball now. Yeah, a sport where there were plenty, and next year
that's a sport people do to stay in shape. I know guys that used to just get involved just because they'll run like to run.
Right. I think as we've talked about before, I think the lack of respect in the basketball arena has gotten worse. That's one of the more vocal. I see it there a lot, one of the more vocal. And
crowd's right on top of you, too.
And you're under the microscope. And
tough sport to officiate anyway. I think it's the toughest sport to officiate.
It is. Usually a lot of calls, some are happy and some are unhappy. So how do you win in that situation? But our league and the NEC, Northeast Conference, next year, we're actually going to go off we're going to go on a 2-week Monday-Thursday schedule instead of a Tuesday-Friday.
Okay.
So even though we prefer to play on Friday nights, Friday night game is the best game of the week. By doing that, our two leagues will free up 8 nights of officials where we're not competing with each other trying to get officials.
That's
so
smart.
We're hoping that that some of the teams that struggle getting officials can get better officials. We saw on the girls basketball this year, some JV officials have to stay and do the varsity game because there were not enough officials, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
So hopefully now there'll be plenty.
I know, but we have definitely, and I just final couple minutes here with Kyle Hodsdon, Newburyport athletic director. We've definitely crossed this road before, but I don't think we can say it like enough because it is such a big issue. I hear it every athletic director I talk to. Athletes talk about it; they obviously notice it. But like you've seen it over the years. We see it as young at the little league level. I mean, it's amazing to see parents, especially. I mean, sometimes it's the athletes, but a lot of times it's coming from the stands and just parents who have just lost themselves in the. It's like people that are good people, they're not like this normally in life, but they just something comes over them in the stands watching these games. It's bizarre.
It is, and my kids are younger, like I said, so they're playing those youth sports.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to see it now, which I didn't see before.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it from a different perspective, and it's I refuse because I don't believe in it, but I refuse to say anything to youth coaches or youth officials.
Yeah.
And my son and my daughter, after every game, they thank their coach after a practice or game, and they thank the officials.
Yeah.
And if more people, kept things in perspective, that thankfully these umpires are working on a Sunday morning, so my daughter can play a doubleheader. If not, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
I have to go do field prep work at the Little League fields before my son's game.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't get done, the field doesn't get lined, and somebody's got to volunteer to be an umpire for that game.
Yeah.
So people are competitive, and they want their son or daughter to do well, and I don't have an answer for that, but I'm living it.
I remember in Denver, so I started umpiring games when I was like 10 years old. They had you do the 8-year-old games or whatever, 7-year-old, whatever the league was. But we started young, basically. And by the time I was 13 or 14, I think I was, doing some of the AAA or majors games, and eventually end up doing all the majors and all that. So I had done it for a really long stretch. And so I was you're good at it and all that, but you don't realize how anybody who would stop you after those games, and it was always few, and would say, hey, great game, Blue, or good zone out there, that stuff goes so far. It would almost never happen, even when you had a great game or whatever. It just very rarely, and you're right, if more people did that, I bet it would attract more people. And I think, I remember driving back from college, I was done with umpiring. I just, told the guy, I'm in college now, and then he happened to call me on a break. I was driving back home, I remember, from Providence, and he said, I just had a guy cancel. It's opening day. I got 3 games in a row, and I got nobody to do the games. Is there any chance? And I needed some college money at that time, so I said, you know what? You caught me at a good time. I'll do it. And I probably didn't have the best zone I ever had. I wasn't planning on seeing a ball. I hadn't seen a ball in however long. I know I didn't have a bad zone, but it wasn't that bad. Just a little inconsistent. It's Little League. And I remember taking my mask off at this guy who was working me for 45 minutes. I gave him a leash. I took my mask off and I said, do you really want to be the first guy I throw out of a game? Really? And he still couldn't just eat that. He still had to say, well, if you would just tighten up a little bit. I was this close to I still didn't do it. But it turned out he was a police officer in town, which I was just like, really? Come on. What are we doing? But anyway, there's my Little League story. I don't think I've told that one on the air yet. You can all laugh at that one now. But it's intense, even at the Little League level.
It is.
So I don't know what you have to deal with, but I know you get good parents. You always make a point to say that, so you don't have to deal with any of that stuff, right?
It's been. I don't want to. I'm not going to jinx us, but our people are great, and it's on the home or on the road. Cool. We have great people.
We had to do 2 other topics I want to talk about real quickly. One, Cody, your nephew is playing ball. He's made it to Double-A now.
He's at Double-A at Pensacola for the Marlins. So he's coming off a broken foot last season. Had surgery in December and slow recovery. They kept him in extended spring training, then sent him to Single-A Jupiter, and now he's at Pensacola, and hoping he keeps going.
Fun ride for him. Must be fun for you to watch from a distance too, huh?
It is. Love to get down. I haven't seen him play as a pro yet.
Yeah.
And it's just the timing's not good, but I'm going to try to get down here maybe just as our spring season ends.
I know I've known some guys that have made the minor league. It's a grind sometimes, but he seems like a kid that just is loving it. He's embracing it all.
Yeah, he's embraced it from day one, and the conditions are a little bit better now with the new collective bargaining agreement with the Major League Baseball, and they pay for housing, so you don't have 5 or 6 or 7 people living together.
Gotcha.
So they increased their weekly stipend a little bit. So he's having fun.
All right, keep rolling, Cody. And let's end with this, because I know we talked about it last week. Jim Stalin, of course, has passed away. And I really can't say enough. I will do 20 more shows where I mention him if I have to, because he was so good to this show, and I know such a big part of the Newburyport community and, of course, Newburyport High School. Just first time I've seen you since Jim passed away. Just your thoughts on Jim.
Yeah, he obviously is an icon, and he's Mr. Newburyport Clipper here, and with his role as a head football coach and as a teacher and athletic director, and the number of people that continue to talk about him and tell stories. And it's my first year here was the year they dedicated the stadium.
Yep.
So I had a chance to meet him on that night. And then throughout the last 8 years, we've stayed in touch. We've talked every football game, Thanksgiving football game, except this past one he wasn't able to make. And throughout the year, I would get handwritten letters. If our teams were doing well, he would just congratulate us, or if something happened, we win the Boston Globe Dalton Award. He was so proud of that last summer when that came out.
Yeah, I bet.
And he said it brought back memories and talked about tradition, and he was just so good to me as in my role, and supportive, and I was really happy and fortunate that I was able to get to know him and his family a little bit. When we hired a football coach after Ed Gaudiano retired, I reached out to Coach Stalin to be on the committee, and I had no idea how old he was at the time. Now that he's passed, I realized how old he was.
Right, yeah.
And to put him through that type of a grind, and he sat there and with energy and knowledge and just a participant in that whole process, and for hours and hours for multiple candidates, and he was fantastic, and he loved Newburyport. And that was evident with his ceremony and the people that came back, and or the people that are around, and I think he's the reason that Newburyport has that tradition that we do.
No doubt. Well, we'll end with that. I think that's a good way to end it for today. And it's still the best out to his family. I know it's never easy, but what a life! 90 years old, and quite an impact here in Newburyport. Kyle Hodsdon, thank you for coming back on. Enjoy the rest of the spring. You got some fun teams to watch. So
thank you. I look forward to coming back for the playoffs and talking about that success.
Sounds good, man. Good to see you. Thank you to Sarah Hayden, Sarah Blackstone, Maeve Power, putting the show together today. Always appreciate you guys. Live at Drew's house, Joppa Afternoon Drive. See you next time, everybody.